Hello, ladies. Welcome back to our ladies' Bible study. I I really enjoy doing these because it forces me to study a little bit more than maybe what I would otherwise, and it allows me to actually get out some of the things that pop into my head. And we all have our things. That we do well and maybe other things that we don't. So this week's episode is called You Make Dinner, I'll Do Dessert. And yes, I give these a food theme kind of it's funny, for probably quite a while. I will be doing food themes, and if you have an idea for a different theme to consider, just drop that in the comment box. Before I forget, I really would like it if you hit like, subscribe, and if you really enjoy what's being said here, share it to somebody that you know maybe would enjoy listening as well. Because let's face it, we all have other friends that she is struggling and she's trying to keep her head above water and she just doesn't know what it is. And maybe this video is perfect for her. Use your judgment and make sure that we're not being condemning with it. Because here's the thing. Today is all about we need to play to our strengths and allowing God to play to our weaknesses. And by doing that, it allows for us to grow in both areas and we move along together. Well, for one, I'm easily distracted. I can hear my kids outside and I'm sitting there going, they don't need to be outside. The guys are in the woods. But here's the thing. When we allow God to play to our weaknesses, he's not just doing it because he's big, mean bully. Actually, 2 Corinthians 12:9 tells us, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. This is Paul talking to the church of Corinth. And he's talking about the afflictions in which it is that he asked God to remove from him. And he said no. And he did it so that people could see that, even though this guy has all these health issues, all these things that are wrong, he's in pain daily, he's still moving forward. It's because it edifies God. So, what do? We feel that doesn't matter what it is that's going on. Maybe you're in pain constantly, but somebody asked you to make dessert because you're really good at making desserts and they're going to make dinner. Well, we all know more often than not, cooking dinner is a lot more work than making dessert. But you love making dessert, so they asked you to do it. So you're going to power through whatever is going on to make that dessert. And it's going to be the best thing you can come up with in your imagination, mind, power, whatever it may be. And somebody's going to go, look, she suffers with chronic whatever. I do not have any chronic issues. I'm trying to give an example. And yet she still did that. Look at that. My Nana knits. Her eyes are going and her hands are arthritic because she knits and crochets so much. But she still makes wash rags almost daily and gives them to friends and family. Anymore, it's become this game between my mom and I to go, hey, Nana sent me wash rags. Through crocheted wash rags. I love them to pieces. Guess what? I can make them myself, but it's a whole other thing when Nana made them and sent them to you. Because Nana's not in the best health. She may not be there tomorrow. And yet she did it anyway because she loves you. She doesn't sit down and go, oh, I'm going to make this pile for... No. She makes them, gives her something to do. She puts them in a drawer or whatever. And sometimes she sells them, sometimes she gives them away. Most often, I think she gives them away. But she's done it for years. It keeps her busy. Gives her hands something to do when she's home. You know? And my Aunt Anna's a tough lady. Like, she is. She used to be in the Navy. Grandpa Bobby was in the Marine Corps. My Aunt Peggy was in I believe the Air Force. Forgive me, Aunt Peggy, if you're watching this and I get that wrong. Go ahead and just comment below and correct me. I won't be mad. You know, my sister served as well, and I can never remember whether it was the Marines or the Air Force. I think it was the Marines, but I could be wrong there too. Sorry, sis. You know, a lot of my family members have chosen to serve in one capacity or the other, and I was never called by God to serve. However, he did call me to serve those that do serve. And that looks different depending on the situation. I like to try to have little things in my purse for when I see a police officer, especially if it's a hot day and they're in a crowd of people that half of them don't like them just because of the occupation they have, not because they did anything. I'm going to tell you a secret. That officer is told they cannot accept anything from you, because then that could be considered bribery. That could be considered a whole litany of things. They are no longer allowed to do so. However, there's a trick. I've started to, when I do my, I do leather crafting, and so I'll make a black tassel about yay long, and I'll secure it with blue thread, thin blue line. Get it? Yeah. And there'll be a tag on there that I can't remember what it says. And if I don't have any kids with me or around me, I look at them and go, to remind you when you're dealing with a bunch of sucky people that not all people suck. You know, me and my house pray for you every day. And I have an officer that anytime he sees my kids, he shows them the tassel that they gave him, because, they'll take it from a kid every time. They'll try not to take it from an adult. It keeps them above reproach. But yeah, they will take it from a kid every time. Like, every time. So anyway, which is why he always shows my kids. I still carry that with me. And it reminds them in that moment that not everybody sucks. Because our police officers, our fire department, our EMTs, our doctors, our military, they deal with the worst of the worst every day. And I imagine that is a huge strain. And so that's the furnace. So if it's annoying, I'm sorry. I don't like to be cold. I turn the furnace on when I'm in here. But anyway, so it reminds them, which is the whole point, that there is still a few, at least, that don't know me, but they care. You know, they care enough to want to remind me that there is still good people in the world. And you know what? Maybe the day you gave it to them is like the worst day they've had in who knows how long, maybe forever. You know what I mean? And that one thing playing to your strength has meant the most. Maybe people skills aren't your wheelhouse. That's me. I don't have people skills. Look at me. I'm talking to a camera in an empty camper to a bunch of people on the internet that I can't actually see your faces. I have zero people skills. And in my house, the word peopling is a verb. I tell people that I am an extroverted introvert, meaning I don't want to live in a big neighborhood full of people. I want to live in the country and have few neighbors as possible. A few is good. In case my house is on fire, I want somebody around to call the 911. And I'll do the same for them. You know, no problem. Your dog's loose. Hey, here's your dog. Thanks. My dog's loose. Same thing. But I don't want like 40 neighbors up in my business. I don't like people. I don't like peopling. There are times I want to people, and I will go do things that involve people. And so by giving this thing away that I made and that I enjoy making, and it plays to one of my strengths, with is being a little crafty. I'm a little crafty. Not a big crafty, but a little crafty. And it's something I enjoy doing. It's one of my strengths. I am also working on something that I don't like to do and is not a strength of mine. I'm working on my people skills. And I'm reminding people that, hey, I can't be next to you every single day. I can't necessarily jump in front of a bullet for you, but I can pray for you. Maybe your strength is cooking dinner, and you don't always know how to go about making things better for people, and you're not sure how to do it. But you know that family over there is having a hard time, and you call up that mama and say, hey, you guys want to come over for dinner tonight? You just took something off her plate. You can't fix the big problems. You can fix that one little thing. It allows you to play to your strength and your weakness at the same time. Because I tell you what, it is really hard when people come to you with big problems and you have no answers. You can't fix it. And I'm telling you what, if anybody finds a magic wand that you just wave it and go, and it fixes the problem automatically, let me know. I want a turn. Because I'm here to tell you what, we have had the last month where, something big has been going on with various different people. We had an evangelist come and preach a week of meetings for us. His truck took a $20,000 dump in our front yard. Our church did not have the $20,000 to fix it. We definitely didn't have the $50,000 that he paid for a new truck, because the $20,000 dump his truck took in our yard wasn't worth putting into a $10,000 truck. And so what do? Maybe if you can pray for him, you can listen to him, you can offer advice, you can help him find a really good diesel mechanic to take a look at it, just in case it's something really tiny like it needs an air filter. And yeah, we were really praying on Monday that that's all it was, is it needed an air filter. It was not. Melted a hole in the engine, something to do with the 8th piston thing. It was done. It needed a new motor. And with inflation, what it is, it's a $20,000 motor in a truck that's worth about $10,000, $12,000. The math doesn't make sense. Especially with other things the truck needed as well. The math just didn't make sense. And so he had to go out and get a payment that he really couldn't afford. Well, no, he can do it, but it's all in faith kind of thing, because he doesn't have a salary. So he had to go get a $50,000 truck with a payment that he didn't want to get. But unfortunately, sometimes it has to happen that way, and there's not a lot we can do about it. But when, your evangelist wife is talking to you and telling you this, you can sit there, you can listen, and say, I'm so sorry, I'm praying. Hopefully, you guys can find a truck that's a really good deal. Or maybe she just needs something to do. Maybe she needs to go on coffee, go coffee and get distracted or something like that. That's something you can do. You can't fix the big problem. You can't take care of the truck, but you can take care of that. That's something, that's small potatoes. That's something that you can do. That's playing to, your strength and allowing God to play to your weaknesses at the same time and growing both. Let's talk about Joseph for a minute. God did not call Joseph to anything small. He was the almost youngest brother. So out of 11 boys, or out of 12 boys, he was number 11. I imagine Benjamin, the youngest, was probably pretty young at the time all of this happened. And he had a dream. Well, his brothers didn't like him because his dreams often said that your little brother is going to be over you, and they didn't like that. And on top of that, these boys had 4 different moms. And then in childbirth, the favorite of the 4 wives died, giving birth to the youngest, making these 2 boys the favorite over the whole 12. Favoritism is never a good thing. And so as a result, Jacob favored Joseph, and he made him this beautiful coat, and he sent him out to go check on the brothers who weren't where they were supposed to be. And so he went and he found them. And when he found them, they saw him first, and they started plotting to try to kill him. And they sold him. They threw him into a pit. They stripped him naked and threw him into a pit. They sold him into slavery, where they was then taken to Egypt and sold again. And you want to talk about temptation? Potiphar's wife tried to get him to shack up with her, which is probably something that went on quite common back then because they married for prestige. And he was like, you know what I mean? His strength wasn't being political. It was interpreting dreams. God needed Joseph in Egypt to save the nation of Israel. And by saving, the only way to go about doing that was to not just save Israel, but many nations, including Egypt. So God brought Joseph to Egypt, who in turn was given this dream to interpret by Pharaoh about the coming famine that was to last 7 years, but he gave them 7 years to prep for it. And so they did. They built storehouses to store all this stuff. And then Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of distributing it. He didn't give his family, well, he did start with, but they also had to pay for it in one way, shape, or form. And God used all of that to bring about reconciliation between him and his brothers. And if you look at it, until Joseph saw that his brothers regretted doing what they did to Joseph, he did not show himself to his brothers at all. And once they did, he allowed for there to be reconciliation between him and them. Now, his brothers thought that it was his dad that was keeping him from killing them all for revenge. Now, Joseph saw the bigger picture in the whole thing, and what his brothers meant for evil, God meant for good. But Joseph had to go through a lot of hard knocks in order to get things situated to a place where all of the little details could fall into place. We need to sit and listen and allow God to use us in such a way that people can look at us and say, that right there was God. And I love hearing people tell me things that is exactly what happened. There is a lady and her husband that I hope one day to get on here, and I'm going to tell you right now, if I ever get them on here to do this, this is a 2-hour story, and it's a beautiful story, and only God could have worked it out. It is not my story to tell, and there's going to be a lot of details that I'm not going to remember to put in. But one day, I'll start planting a bug. Actually, I kind of already did. But I'll mention it to them to think about it and see if I can't get them to do that. Because when you let God play to your weaknesses while you play to your strengths, and sometimes that looks like you have to do something you don't want to do. Maybe God tells you to build a boat and you're not a carpenter, like Noah. And you start doing that anyway. And you come to find out, hey, I'm really good at this. Noah saved an entire, the human race, as well as a lot of animals. And sorry, I'm getting over a cold. And everybody thought he was nuts. But he wasn't nuts. Sometimes you're going to look like the crazy one. You're going to stand out and you're going to look odd. And that's okay. Because as long as you are doing what it is God wants you to do, and you're in the center of His will, there is no safer place to be, and there's no happier place to be. Even when you're alone. I don't mind standing alone. I don't mind being the unpopular one. I don't actually care. That's the benefits of being an introvert. You don't care. But it's a great thing because when people look back, they're like, only God could have worked that out. So I'm going to leave you with that thought for today. You ladies have a great morning, and I will see you next time.